Chicago, a city of ambition and energy, was gripped by a chilling new fear in the spring of 2024. Shopping malls, once safe havens, became landscapes of anxiety as women began to vanish. Whispers turned to headlines. The media named the unseen menace, the shopper strangler. Every shopping trip was now tinged with fear. Chicago, once bustling and bold, found itself in the grip. The terror was magnified by its sheer audacity. This predator didn't lurk in shadows. He hunted in the open, blending into crowds at shopping malls, turning public spaces into his hunting ground. He moved unseen, a wolf among shoppers, exploiting moments of distraction. 5 women vanished, each from a different mall, spreading fear across Chicago. The shopper strangler shattered the city's sense of safety, proving evil can hide in plain sight. On a cold, grey Chicago morning, the nightmare began. Vanessa Cruz, a vibrant young woman, vanished after shopping for her sister's birthday. She never made it home. The next morning she was found, no longer missing but a victim. Her family and city were left in shock, asking why. Vanessa was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time, her future stolen in a forgotten corner of Chicago. The location of the discovery was as bleak as the act itself. Vanessa's body was found behind a green dumpster at the far end of the West Ridge Plaza parking lot, shielded from view. The scene was eerily clean, almost staged. Her purse, wallet and phone were untouched. There were no signs of struggle, no motive of robbery or passion. The killer left a chilling riddle, a crime that whispered of some.
At first, we called it a robbery gone wrong. It was the easy answer, but the scene was too neat. Vanessa's belongings were untouched, her purse full, her phone left behind. No sign of panic, no evidence of a struggle. This wasn't a thief in a hurry. Security footage showed Vanessa alone, calm, unaware of any threat, but the cameras missed the spot where she died. Whoever did this knew the plaza's blind spots. It felt planned. The robbery theory fell apart. We were looking for a predator, not a desperate criminal. And if this was deliberate, Vanessa might not be the only target. One detail stood out. A bright red paper bag, empty, placed at Vanessa's feet. It wasn't hers. None of the footage showed her carrying it. The bag was a message, a signature. No robber would do this. The killer wanted us to see it. It was a taunt.
The bag was traced, but it was generic, sold everywhere, a dead end.
Still, it was the first sign of a pattern. We didn't know it yet, but this red bag would haunt us. To the public, it was just a murder. To us, it was the start of something bigger.
The detectives knew this was only the beginning. Two weeks later, another woman was found, Brenda Martin, at a mall 30 miles away. The scene was eerily similar. Strangulation, valuables untouched, body arranged with care.
Another red bag, empty at her feet. The killer had struck again, far from the first scene. He was mobile, unpredictable. The city panicked. This was no longer a one-off crime. The media gave him a name, the shopper strangler. For the families, the connection was agony. For us, it was a terrifying escalation.
A predator was loose, and he was just getting started. The red bag at Brenda's feet confirmed it. A serial killer was at work. The police formed a task force. The red bag became their symbol. Forensics found nothing. The bags were clean, handled with gloves.
The killer was careful, methodical and bold. Each murder followed the same script. More victims followed, each found at a different mall, each with the same red bag. The only link: women shopping alone.
The city was gripped by fear. The killer was always one step ahead, leaving only his crimson calling card. He was a ghost, and the pattern offered no clue to his identity. The murders emptied Chicago's malls. Fear replaced routine. Women stopped shopping alone. Parking lots became battlegrounds of anxiety. The media frenzy was relentless. The shopper Strangler was everywhere. News, radio, social feeds.
The police urged calm, but the city was on edge. Community patrols formed. Self-defense classes filled up. The killer had stolen more than lives. He'd shattered the city's sense of safety. Anyone could be a target. The pattern was clear, but the man behind it was invisible.
Chicago was trapped in his nightmare, waiting for the next red bag to appear. The task force hunted a ghost, organized, intelligent, and invisible. He left no evidence, blended into crowds, and struck with chilling precision. Each act was calculated, his motive rooted in control, not impulse. Despite their efforts, police had no suspects, no witnesses, only a pattern and a chilling certainty. Until he was found, the killings would continue. The break in the case came from Maya, a 22-year-old college student just trying to survive in a city gripped by fear. One night she spotted a flashy sticker in a mall parking garage, offering a huge discount if she scanned a QR code. Tempted, Maya scanned it, unknowingly sending her location to the shopper Strangler. The hunt had begun. As Maya drove out of the parking garage, a strange feeling began to creep over her. It was a primal sense of being watched, a prickling on the back of her neck that she just couldn't shake. She glanced in her rearview mirror. A nondescript dark sedan, a common model she'd seen 1,000 times, was behind her. It had been there when she pulled out of her spot, and it was still there as she merged onto the highway. At first I thought, it's probably nothing. The highway was busy and cars follow each other all the time, but this one, it stayed the same distance. Never too close, never too far. She decided to test her growing suspicion. Taking a sudden exit she didn't need, she looped through a quiet suburban side street. The dark sedan followed, its movements mirroring hers with an unnerving precision. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just in my head. I was being followed. All the news warnings, the stories about the other women, the image of the red bag, I couldn't get them out of my mind. The anonymous fear that had haunted the city for weeks had suddenly become intensely personal. The predator was no longer a headline. He was in her rearview mirror, a tangible and immediate threat. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely breathe. I knew I couldn't go home. He'd know where I lived. I couldn't just keep driving forever. I needed to get somewhere safe with people around. Remembering a police station was just a few miles away, she floored the accelerator, her car lurching forward. The sedan behind her immediately matched her speed, its dark form clinging to her like a shadow. The chase was on. It wasn't a high-speed movie pursuit, but a terrifying silent game of cat and mouse on the public streets. My hands were shaking so bad, but I managed to dial 911. I could barely get the words out, but the dispatcher stayed calm and told me to keep driving to the police station, not to stop for anything. The sight of the police station's blue sign was the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. She swerved into the parking lot, not even bothering to park correctly, and laid on the horn. The dark sedan, caught in the sudden glare of the station's floodlights, hesitated at the entrance before speeding off, disappearing back into the anonymity of the night. Maya was safe, but she was also the first person to have looked the shopper Strangler in the eye and survived. Shaking and breathless, Maya recounted her ordeal to the detectives at the station. She told them everything, from the moment she left the mall to the terrifying chase. When she mentioned the QR code and the ShopSave app, the investigators' interest sharpened immediately.
Wait, you said you scanned a QR code and installed an app. That's not something we've seen before. None of the other victims mentioned anything like that.
This was something new, a detail that didn't fit the established pattern. The other victims had left no such clues. The task force had been searching for a physical ghost, a man who moved through the real world without a trace. It had never occurred to them that he might be a digital one as well, using modern technology as his primary hunting tool.
We need to get your phone to the cyber forensics team right away. Don't touch anything else on it.
The detectives immediately brought in the FBI's cyber forensics unit. They treated Maya's phone not just as a personal device, but as a crime scene. The so-called Shop Save app was the key. A preliminary analysis revealed its horrifyingly invasive nature. It wasn't a coupon app at all. It was a sophisticated piece of spyware. Once installed, it gave the creator complete control over the phone's most critical functions.
This thing logs your real-time GPS location, can turn on your camera and microphone without you knowing. It's like carrying around a tracking device and a bug in your pocket.
The discovery was a chilling revelation that recontextualized the entire case. The killer wasn't just a patient observer who physically stalked his victims at the malls. He was far more insidious. He was luring them into a digital trap. By preying on a common behavior, the desire for a good deal, he tricked his targets into willingly installing his surveillance.
Now we know how he always seemed to know when his victims were alone. He didn't have to guess. He could just watch and listen through their phones.
This technological element explained the killer's efficiency and his seeming invisibility. He wasn't relying on luck or chance. He was relying on data. The QR code stickers were his digital fishing nets, cast wide in the places he knew his preferred targets would be. Maya's escape was a stroke of incredible fortune. Her intuition, her decision to test her suspicion, and her immediate flight to a police station had saved her life. In doing so, she had not only survived, but had also handed the investigation its first real, tangible lead. The killer had made a mistake. He had let one get away, and she had brought back the blueprint to his entire operation. The ghost finally had a digital footprint. The killer's methods sparked fear, but also awareness. The shopper Strangler was now a cyber predator, weaponizing technology people trusted. Police warned the public, beware unofficial QR codes and unverified apps. The trap was no longer a place, it was an app. Now, detectives followed digital breadcrumbs, hoping to unmask the predator behind the screen. With the discovery of the malicious Shop Save app, the hunt for the shopper Strangler pivoted from the streets of Chicago to the vast, invisible world of cyberspace.
The app was our first direct link to the man himself, a piece of his mind translated into code.
The investigators initiated a digital dragnet, casting a wide net in the hopes of catching the faintest electronic signal that could lead them to their ghost. The first step was to trace the app's communication path. The team meticulously analyzed the app's network traffic logs from Maya's device.
As expected, the IP address was not a direct line to the killer.
It was a sophisticated setup indicating a high level of technical expertise. For the forensics team, this was a frustrating but not unexpected roadblock.
We dissected the code itself, looking for patterns or habits that might identify the programmer.
The team cross-referenced snippets of the app's code against vast databases of known malware and open-source projects, searching for a match. They were building a profile not just of a killer, but of a programmer, hoping his digital habits would betray him in a way his physical ones never had. While one team analyzed the app's code, another tracked its distribution. The killer placed QR code stickers in mall parking garages, exposing himself in the real world. He used public Wi-Fi to hide his tracks. We traced the app's upload to a gym's public Wi-Fi near Woodfield Mall. For the first time, we had a physical anchor. His digital ghost left a footprint. Detectives spent days combing through security footage, searching for anything unusual. Finally, a junior detective spotted a man in dark clothes and gloves planting a QR code sticker in the parking lot. He matched the car that had chased Maya. The footage was grainy, but it was enough. The killer had been caught on camera leaving his digital trap. The task force now had two critical but separate streams of evidence: the digital trail from the app and the physical trail from the gym's security camera. The next step was to merge them, to find the intersection point where the digital and physical worlds of the killer met. They knew he frequented malls, and they now knew he had been at a specific gym near one of those malls.
We began a painstaking process of cross-matching data, looking for any individual who connected these disparate locations. It was classic connect the dots police work, but this time amplified by the power of modern data analysis. We started by pulling the membership lists from the gym and ran background checks on every male member who fit the general physical description from the video. At the same time, another team was working with the malls that had been targeted. They gathered data from parking garage pass holders, store loyalty programs, and employee records. We were looking for a name that appeared in both sets of data. Someone who was a member of that specific gym and who also had a documented presence at one or more of the malls where the victims were taken.
The list of potential overlaps was long, containing thousands of names. The process was slow and methodical. One by one, names were investigated and cleared. The pressure was immense, as everyone knew the killer was still out there and could strike again at any moment.
The break came when we started analyzing vehicle registration data. We compiled a list of every dark-colored sedan registered to individuals on our combined list of persons of interest. We were looking for a needle in a haystack, but with each layer of data we added, the haystack got smaller.
The profile was becoming clearer. A man who belonged to the gym frequented the malls and drove a car matching the one in the footage and the one that chased Maya. Slowly, a single name began to rise to the top of the list. A name that hit every single criterion. He was a member of the 24-hour fitness center. His car was a dark grey sedan, matching the one on camera. His credit card records showed small, incidental purchases, a coffee, a water bottle, at or near every single mall where a victim had been found, on or around the days of the murders. He was a ghost who had left faint traces everywhere. And now, for the first time, the police had gathered them all in one place and given them a name. The name was Elliot Brandt. On paper, he was the last person anyone would suspect. Quiet, with a spotless record, living alone, blending into crowds. The task force placed him under constant surveillance, watching his every move. He was a regular at every location where a body had been found. His IT skills made him the perfect suspect. The quiet IT contractor was the shopper Strangler. The time to act was fast approaching. The decision to arrest Elliot Brandt was made with surgical precision. The task force had shadowed him for days, waiting for the perfect moment. At his usual hunting ground, plainclothes officers blended in, ready. The takedown was swift and silent. Brandt offered no resistance, calmly placing his hands on the table. The monster who had terrorized the city was led away, unnoticed by the crowd, his reign ending with a whisper. In the sterile interrogation room, Elliot Brandt sat in silence, a wall of calm composure. Detectives laid out the evidence, photos, footage, testimony, but Brandt refused to speak, simply watching, hands folded. His silence was unnerving, a final weapon, denying them the satisfaction of a confession. But while he waited, police searched his apartment, about to uncover the digital diary of a serial killer. While Elliot Brandt kept his vow of silence, his personal server was basically screaming his guilt. In the spare bedroom of his meticulously tidy apartment, the FBI's cyber forensics team gained access to his private computer network. What they found, honestly, was a digital tomb, just a horrifyingly organized archive of his crimes. Brandt, that brilliant IT contractor, made a classic narcissist's mistake. He kept trophies.
He just couldn't resist documenting his so-called achievements, preserving them in a place he believed no one else could ever reach. His arrogance, in the end, became the prosecution's greatest asset. It gave us the direct evidence we needed.
The server contained a series of encrypted folders, each one named after a specific mall location. like West Ridge, Orland Square, Woodfield. The password for each folder was the date of the corresponding murder. Inside, investigators found a treasure trove of damning information.
There were complete logs from the ShopSave app for every victim, showing their movements in the hours and minutes before their deaths. He tracked their every step, cataloguing their journey from the moment they scanned his QR code to the moment he decided to strike. It was a cold, data-driven blueprint of premeditated murder.
But the most chilling discovery was the audio. Brandt hadn't just used the app to track his victims' locations. He'd also used it to activate their phone's microphone, recording their final moments.
Each folder had audio files, recordings of the women talking on the phone, listening to music, or just, breathing as they walked to their cars, completely unaware that their killer was listening in. The recordings were a horrifying, intimate violation, a window into the victims' last moments of peace before their lives were brutally extinguished.
The audio files were the digital confession that Brandt refused to give verbally. Alongside the data and audio, investigators found Brandt's manifesto, a series of text files outlining his twisted ideology.
I believe modern consumerism, especially as embodied by female shoppers, is a sign of societal decay and weakness. I am not a murderer, I am a righteous arbiter, a self-appointed judge delivering a harsh sentence. My victims were volunteers in a failed system, people who willingly sacrificed their awareness for the cheap thrill of a discount.
The files revealed a mind warped by a toxic combination of misogyny, narcissism, and a profound God complex. The silent man in the interrogation room had finally spoken, and his voice was that of a monster. The trial of Elliot Brandt was a media spectacle. The evidence was overwhelming, and the jury took less than an hour to find him guilty on all counts. As the verdict was read, families wept, but Brandt only smiled faintly, unmoved, unrepentant. He was sentenced to 6 consecutive life terms, never to walk free again. With Elliot Brandt's conviction, Chicago breathed a sigh of relief. The city's nightmare seemed over, but Brandt's infamy only grew behind bars, drawing disturbing admiration and letters from across the country. Red bags and fake QR codes began appearing in malls, ominous echoes of his crimes. Even with Brandt locked away, the echo of his terror haunted Chicago. The capture of Elliot Brandt did not, solve the fundamental problem he had so brutally exposed. His methods peeled back a layer of modern life, revealing a vulnerability that couldn't be imprisoned along with him. He showed with terrifying success just how easily the technology we trust can be weaponized against us. Our smartphones, those constant companions, can also be our trackers, our bugs, our digital Judas. The tools we use for convenience, QR codes, public Wi-Fi, those one-click app downloads, they're all built on trust. Brandt systematically weaponized that trust. The trap he built wasn't made of steel and bars. It was made of code, and that code can be replicated. This case was a brutal wake-up call, forcing not just a city but the whole world to confront the dark side of our hyper-connected existence. We're seeing a new frontier for crime, where predators don't need to stalk in person. They can hunt from behind a screen, using data and deception to ensnare victims before ever making physical contact. The Shopper Strangler case became a cautionary tale for the digital age, a lesson in cybersecurity taught in the grim reality of a police investigation. It changed the way people looked at a simple QR code, turning a symbol of convenience into a potential gateway to danger. Law enforcement and tech companies have since bolstered their defenses, developing new protocols and educating the public. But honestly, the race between security and malice never ends. For every firewall, there's a hacker looking for a way through. The tools and knowledge Brandt used are out there, widely available in the dark corners of the internet. He provided a blueprint, a proof of concept for a new kind of terror. The digital ghost he unleashed can't be easily exorcised. It lingers in our hesitation to connect to free Wi-Fi, in our suspicion of unfamiliar apps. The legacy of the Shopper Strangler is one of uneasy vigilance. He's gone, but the trap he perfected remains. He unmasked the fragility of our perceived safety, proving that the most dangerous threats can come not from a dark alley, but from a bright screen. The story of Elliot Brandt is a chilling reminder that in a world where our lives are increasingly lived online, we must always look twice before we click, before we scan, before we trust. Because the next discount, the next offer, the next seemingly harmless piece of technology could come at a cost far greater than we could ever imagine.